Oh, Mr. Craig, is school in session?
School is in session, Mr. Jason.
Well, Mr. Craig, we meet again here on stage.
Oh, and we're still in the bunkers because
Truth.
the virus abounds.
Truth.
Can you say virus on the air?
You did.
Oh, well then let's get going. Who do we have?
We have Ryan Schafer with Lender Secret Systems. Fire yourself so success seems simple, sir.
Buckle up. It's the Insurance Dudes podcast.
Boom! We got Ryan Schafer. How you doing, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing well, Jason. I appreciate having me on here today.
Love it. You're alive, so that's good. We're all alive.
We are.
Alive.
Yeah.
That's okay.
We are live.
It's a good start to today.
It is. With everything going on, it's the little wins that you got to take hold of.
Yeah.
It is. It is. So, well, Ryan, welcome to the Insurance Dudes. Thanks for hopping on with us. I know you're actually from outside this industry, outside the insurance industry. So before we get into that, I almost forgot, and I know Jason was ready to pound me for it. What was the first concert you went to? And we're talking way back.
That's a good question. Let me see here. First concert. Gosh. I would have to say when I was younger, my parents took me to a Beach Boys concert.
Oh, that's awesome.
Way back, they were out here in my neck of the woods, out here in Westlake Village, Thousand Oaks area, California. Obviously my dad was a big Beach Boys fan, and they were doing a little concert and took the whole family. It was a fun time.
That is awesome. Yeah, I think you're number 3. There's the third person.
Oh, really? For that one? Okay.
Yep.
Do you remember if Brian Wilson had his feet in the sand? I also ask that every time.
I don't.
Apparently there was a sand handler, and they would bring like a sandbox so he would have his feet in the sand while performing.
I think I was probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 when we had this, or maybe 9 or 10 actually. I know it was so long ago. I remember the music because, I was a fan, a young fan at that point, but it was all such a big experience for me. I don't remember much else than that.
Awesome.
That's awesome. So take us from that point on, and what got you into the industry? What industry are you in, first off?
So I'm in mortgage, real estate finance. We do, single family homes, 1-4 units primarily. All those people that we're obviously in a big refi kind of market right now. So those are kind of our clientele at the moment. Mortgage and real estate.
And what got you there? Take us through your journey.
Well, I'd love to say I grew up, from a young age saying I was going to be in mortgage, but certainly wasn't. I was going to be a firefighter, actually. That was what I wanted, what I was pursuing from a young age. But, I had a friend he was actually a sheriff, a cop. And he, because of work schedules and whatnot, fire department's much the same, where it actually permits kind of second jobs, second businesses, that sort of thing. And so he went in. He had a friend that kind of got him into mortgage, and this was back in 99, 2000, years. So it was kind of easier then. All you need is an easy license, and you can kind of go get at it. So he was just raving about it. And I was a college student at the time. And so I just said, hey, what the heck? I'll try it out. I'm getting my real estate license. So why not? I made a call to a local mortgage broker and said, hey, I'm interested. What do I have to do? He's like, well, just come on in. And we did a little probably 45-minute little interview. And he said, look, if you're interested, here's a cubicle outside my office, show up on Monday. So I did. and kind of just went from there.
So what did you do? What? So you showed up on Monday. He said, here's a desk. Here's, there's no fires to put out.
So what did I do? That's a great question.
Yeah.
So I showed up on Monday wearing a suit and tie, probably the only one I had. And I sat outside his office. I wasn't licensed yet, so I actually couldn't even really work. But I sat outside his office working on my license. And I was just, my focus was like on my computer, working on my license, getting my education to take the test that I needed. While another ear that's closer to his office, I'm listening in on literally every single conversation he's having with clients, how he's handling clients, how he's selling, how he's qualifying, the technical side of things. And I was just basically a sponge at that point. And so I just showed up and kind of, I didn't have much direction, but I knew what I had, which was the motivation. And I, at the end of the day, I'd love to say I did it because I loved it. I did it because of the money at the point. I mean, I'll be totally honest with you, right? I mean, it's well paying. And for a younger kid at that point, it was great.
What year was that?
2000.
Oh, cool. Oh, so you've been through a lot.
I went through the ups and downs. Early 2000s was fantastic. Came back, to later 2000s, right? 08, 09. Saw that whole thing. The ebb and flow, and now we're back in kind of this troubling economic time that we're currently going through. But yeah, been through several types of markets.
And that's a tough industry when you first start off, because I mean, there's a steep, I did it for like a month and a half, and the company that I worked for was very shady. Like they were literally ripping off old people.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it. So I got out of that company. It was just some young bucks that were just raking it in, early 2000s. But regardless, I remember getting into it thinking like, this is a lot, and there wasn't much guidance, and that's a hard conversation. When you're young, that's a hard conversation to talk about. More money than you can even fathom at that time, especially being young. How did you, how did you get over that hurdle?
Yeah, no, that was such a struggle for me. I'll be honest. One of the biggest hurdles for me was that, actually, because at the time, I, number one, knew really nothing about the industry. Right. I mean, I was completely green. I had no training, because I started for a small mortgage brokerage firm here in Ventura County, California. There was no structured training program. Right. So that's why my first days were what they were. Come sit here in the office, and literally I was probably one of the first ones in the office between all the seasoned folks. I was one of the first, and I was one of the last to leave, because I wanted to make sure I could soak in everything I could, because that was my training. But one of the biggest hurdles I did have to overcome in the sales side of it was definitely, the perception of, not only the lack of knowledge, which I had to overcome, the technical aspect of it, but was also the perception. I mean, I could be the most seasoned pro and the best, expert in the field, but the perception was that I'm still some young kid, and I'm helping my parents' friends and my parents' parents, right, with their mortgage, and so that age gap was a hurdle for sure, and it was a hurdle for me internally, right, to be able to place those sales calls, because I felt it, but it was, it was something that I had to overcome, and I think the way I did that was simply trying to earn the trust, right, through the expertise, through the advice and the knowledge. And once I could at least get a few minutes with someone, and I could kind of give them an idea of what I could offer in advice and knowledge, that's where that trust slowly shifted over to me.
It's amazing how this thing, this dome of ours on our shoulders will just get in the way. And, you overcame that. You acknowledged, hey, look, I may be younger. I may not have as much knowledge, but I'm going to push. And that's going to be what people will see. And when they see that you maybe aren't the expert, but you're at least going for it, right? You don't give up. You've been sticking to it. That's what will move people, because at the end of the day, it's relationships, right? It's building relationships, making them like you. And, some of the insurance dudes and dudettes listening to this may have wondered, why in the heck would they bring a loan officer on this thing? And it's because, not only is it so important for us to have relationships, right? For insurance.
Absolutely.
And loan officers have those cross-pollinating relationships, but our industries are so similar, right? Very reactive, little to no training, and complete chaos when you start, right? Like there is this, it's just like, get them in. I don't have time. Just figure it out, right? Shadow somebody. And without that training, you have this experience where a lot of people will wash out because they're just not, there's nothing there, right? And you have been successful in doing it because you stuck with it. But a lot of people, if there isn't structure, they bounce.
That's very true. I mean, it's, one thing that I look for now when we make hiring decisions, when I have to make a hiring decision, is looking back on my experience there. And I do, and I have self-evaluated what got me through that, and a lot of companies are very similar to your point, across industries, not necessarily just our industry specific or yours, but it happens. In most sales jobs for that matter, right? I mean, sales is typically significantly low on the training aspect, right? Yeah. So, one of the things that I do consistently evaluate in hiring decisions is that stick-to-itiveness, I guess you could call it, the motivation to stick. Because I know, because I went through it, you talk to anyone in sales that have made it through it, they'll tell you that the first early years are incredibly difficult. And there's to your comment there's a massive washout rate, right? Mm-hmm. Until you get business going, in our industry, we don't necessarily have residuals, right? Like I know, on your end, in insurance industry, you guys typically have, but our kind of comparison to that are our book of business, our clients that continue to refi, they come back to you. So if you keep good care of them, then in a way that's a residual down the road, right?
Totally.
But you got to get there first, right? Mm-hmm. And so those first few years you don't have it. So it's always a motivation factor, honestly, that I try to evaluate. How bad do you want it? Then are you in a position to succeed? I mean, if you have a massive overhead from a personal level, that tends to be the higher washout rate, because you can't stick through that period of time. So you got to have a lot of pieces of the puzzle kind of put together to make it and weather that period.
Other high barriers to entry too, licensing. This happens here. People will push bringing somebody on because, oh man, then they have to get licensed, and you come up with all these reasons not to be recruiting,
right?
And when at the end of the day, that's what chokes the whole thing. If you don't recruit and have a system in place, because if you have the system in place, it becomes second nature, right? It's like an assembly line. But without that system, it is a mess, and you don't want to do it. And then you bring on, then you only find licensed people, right? And then that's a terrible mistake, because why are they looking? Right? If they're licensed and they're looking, there's already something wrong. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, one of Jason's best producers right now, I think he came from he was the butcher at Vaughn's or something?
He worked in the meat department at Albertsons, and within 3 weeks, I mean, he's been top sales ever since. 3 weeks in.
Nice.
With no experience. I mean, that's what's critical.
And he never had a desk job, and he never worked in that environment. And now he loves sitting at a desk. He's like, this is great. I don't have to be on my feet, and I don't have to do all that stuff. And I used to bartend, and I used to same thing. And so it's like, you appreciate these little things that maybe you wouldn't have appreciated if you were sitting at a desk for 10 years and then you got into it.
Yeah. Oh man. And right now, like, okay, this is freaky. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. We don't know how it's going to end, but I'll tell you right now, the amount of servers and bartenders that are out there looking for work who historically can talk to anybody, right? If they're willing to hop on the phone, I mean, what an opportunity. You know, I'm on Indeed and they are just, I am getting so many resumes right now and it's phenomenal. I had to get a VA just to run that because I have too many. And so
that's always been one thing too for me is, you know, I'll look for those character traits, you know, those things that I can't really teach. You know, I can't teach someone their personality, right?
Right.
I can't teach whether someone's an extrovert or an introvert. Those are things that they either are or they're not, in my opinion. But I can teach someone, you know, how to do loans, right? I can teach someone the technical side of our industry, just like you could teach someone the technical side of you know, insurance, right? But you can't teach someone how to go be personable. You just,
right.
You know, so those traits are ultra critical, and you can hit, you know, I mean, like you guys are talking about there. I mean, you can find that out there, especially today. But I think in any market, in any type of economic environment that exists out there, you just got to be able to. I think you have to be conscientious enough to look for it so you can identify it when it is in front of your face. You know, because we all, maybe this exact time aside, we all typically interact with people, right? Yeah. And so you just got to kind of have your eyes and ears open to it, is what I think.
Yep. And so what have you learned over the years with bringing somebody on? What are the things that you are really looking for, and how do you get them up and running with that first win so that they continue that?
You know, it really depends. I've noticed several things. I think the most glaring kind of general thing here would be, you know, it's super important to give them direction. Right. You know, someone like the experience that I had when I first came into the industry, you know, and I've worked for several companies, you know, obviously since I first started. But when I first came into the industry, I wasn't given direction. I was just said, look here, sit here, learn, and, you know, here's a phone book, right? Call. And that was it. So I got my own computer. I got my own phone. I got literally everything. And I sat in that cubicle and I did that. The learning curve was difficult. It was challenging. You know, luckily I was in that position, like I said, where my overhead was low and I could weather that. But nowadays, you know, I try to shorten that, right? Looking back on my personal experience, what helps people shorten that learning curve, you know, get up and running faster, is kind of giving them that direction, giving them that structure, right? Craig, to your point, you know, you mentioned systems. You know, I'm a big systems guy. I create systems around everything. That's how I ramped up my business as a loan officer to where I was one of the top producers for Countrywide Home Loans way back in the day before, you know, they folded in 2008. But even now, you know, I'm a systems guy because one of my biggest responsibilities here at Axia Home Loans is to grow our teams, grow our presence, and that's through recruiting. So I spend a lot of my time doing that, and I do it nationally. So there's no way for me to do that without having extreme structure in place, extreme systems in place. So I take everything out of my head and literally I run it from my phone because I'm on the road a lot, or I run it from my PC, and I just go by what that tells me to do. Then I'm free to create. And that's kind of where I think I shortened the learning curve. I did it on the loan side of it. You can do it in insurance. You just got to have the systems in place, right? To make the sales calls, know how many you need to make, know who they are. Have you identified your, you know, potential buyers, potential clients and customers? You know, and then once you identify them, how are you going to get in front of them? How are they going to know who you are? Right. And then having this follow-up, I think the critical piece that everyone falls on in our industry, I'm sure in yours too, because in sales in general, is the follow-up piece. Got to have a system there. Because if you don't, then then your sales are going to probably be a small fraction of what they should be.
Right. Yep. And it's so funny. When I got into insurance too, we didn't have any systems, and it's incredibly frustrating. And you're kind of like living on this like day-to-day basis where you're just running around trying to do everything, and you're so busy, and you think, oh, I should just, at some point you realize you need a system, and then you think, oh, I'll do it. And you keep putting it off because you're in that mode of being busy. But if you just step back and just take time to create those systems, how relieving is that?
For sure. Because not only that, I mean, the day to day is so, I mean, we get inundated, I mean, I now am in a habit. I've been in a habit for probably the better part of a few years now, where I shut down my email, and I do not have it in front of me except for certain blocks of time throughout my day.
Nice. Same
people
here.
know that if there is a fire, a absolute 911 emergency, they text me. That's it. That's the only way. Otherwise, I'm not checking email. I'm not getting back to you except for these periods. Right. Because otherwise I'll get sucked into email all day long. So that's a structure, right? A structure piece there. But the systems, I mean, there's such a freedom, I think, to it. Once you have these systems down and the structure in place to do everything, follow up is one piece of it, but just a system in place to create social media content even. I mean, there's that system. I've personally been working on that for the last few months, right? Craig, you mentioned a VA. I've got 2 VAs that work for me full time for social media.
It's
that
game changing.
Totally.
Right? You unlock so much time because if you're creating content, like that's the highest level of what you can offer, the value you can give to people, and creating those structures, not like sitting here typing something out that the VA can do, right? Because you don't get that time back. If you spend 2 hours working on some Word thing and yeah, I was busy, that's great, but you didn't get what you're worth in time from those 2 hours, and you never get it back.
Right. Yeah. And it's actually, it's funny.
That's all you have.
It's part of this exercise that I did. I have a coach. I've been coached for several years now, from a leadership coach. And one of the things, the exercises that we've done over the last, we actually started it spring of last year in 19, was a fire yourself exercise. So basically it had me make out a list of everything I do ever, right?
Wow.
Everything. And I listed it all out. I mean, it was like a 2-page list. And it was just from the little mundane details of something to a big vision thing. But I listed it out. And then what I did was the entire goal of this, and then on the right side, so I made 2 columns, that's one. Then on the right side column, I listed out every resource I have available to me. So this would be an assistant, this would be human resources, this would be a virtual, this would be anything, right? Anyone that's not you. And what I did was basically I drew a line from everything I do to who might be able to do it. Mm-hmm. My goal here was to identify every way possible that I can fire myself in those activities, right? And I mean, it sounds funny. I've talked to many people about this before, since then. But it's so true, because once you can fire yourself from those small activities, you can engage in the higher dollar activities, right? Like building, once you do that, it's like this exponential scaling growth that you can do, I know in your industry as in ours. So it's a critical exercise. I mean, if you haven't tried it, I definitely think to try it. It's really an eye opener, honestly, the first time you do it.
I love that. And that is an eye opener. I actually did do something like that. I didn't look at it from that angle of fire yourself, but I did. I wrote down all the stuff. What do I do? And what can I not do, within that list? But it is incredibly eye opening. You start thinking like, wow, I spent so much time doing this, this, and this. And it's just like, does that actually move the needle on, the whole vision of everything?
Tremendous exercise. I mean, that is amazing. And it's so simple, right? Most of everything we do is that we should do is common sense. And then we gravitate towards making everything so much more difficult.
Yeah.
Just, oh, I should do that myself. I can't afford somebody. No, you can. They're $5 an hour, and they'll do a better job than anybody you have in your office or yourself. And
there are a lot of resources out there for that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, it takes the time to be creative and look for it and train it up to get a system in place. Again, a system in place to delegate it off of you, right? That's the entire process. But once you do, this system is running over here, totally separate from you.
Leverage.
You know, and now that's how you scale. That's entirely how you scale from one individual to a massive team, you know, and it doesn't have to be a team that is like in an office, right? Or like a high paying, high cost team. I mean, it can be a team in the sense of, look at everything you're doing and how can I delegate this to someone else, whether paid or not? You know, so I no longer have to do it. How do I get more time back to me instead of my time getting sucked into everything else?
Yep.
It's amazing. During this time, a lot of people are going to be forced into this opportunity where they can look at their teams, because everybody's remote now, and figure out how to make it work the right way. And there's going to be a lot of people that fall off, and then there's going to be people that really create that structure to their organizations because they have to. Because if you don't, you're gonna die. You're gonna have scaled chaos.
For sure.
Yep.
For sure. I mean,
what an opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think this is a culture shift, what we're going through right now.
Huge.
You know, it's a massive culture shift that isn't going to just revert back to how it was. I think
get rid of our offices after this.
When we come through this, things are going to look different at the other end, and not in necessarily a negative way, but just different.
Yep.
And those that embrace it now, I think those are the ones that are going to come out ahead of the game when we do finish this.
Yeah, I've actually been talking to a lot of people about that in different industries and everything. And minus, obviously we all know about the devastation that can happen and that is happening, but take yourself out of that. And, everything's for a season. So after we're out of this season, what does it look like? How does this change it? I mean, it's going to be incredible how this changes the landscape, the social landscape and the business landscape. And then how we approach that going forward is going to be completely different than the way we approached it years ago.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's awesome. So I want to make sure we have enough time for the number one question that insurance agents have. So we love developing those centers of influence. And we all, I hear a lot of insurance agents like pontificating on how to get loan officers into that center of influence. But we'd love to hear from you, and especially with your years of experience, those relationships that you've developed over the years. How did that happen? And what really attracted you to the insurance agents that you built those relationships with?
That's a tough question. I think because this question is much like the question that we have on our end with realtors, real estate
right?
Agents, right? And how do you differentiate? Because I will tell you, I mean, we get a lot of just immediate pitches, from folks in your industry.
Totally.
Right. Just like realtors do from us. And so it's about how you can differentiate and not just say I have insurance, right? I can help your clients, right?
Right.
Like that, but try to go a little deeper with who you're requesting. Because if I get a whatever communication, right? It could be on LinkedIn, on social media, it could be email, it could be however you found me, right? But if you do at least just maybe 5 minutes of homework on me, on where my geography typically is, where you're guessing my clients probably are, and you can kind of make those general assumptions, right? Then talk about maybe how your insurance can help my clients in these areas. The mere fact that if your initial message shows that you've done a little bit of homework on me, I'm exponentially more inclined to respond back. Now, maybe favorably or unfavorably, but the point of it being is that that will open the door, right? Because there's so much, just so many people out there, so much noise, right? From your end to us and from us to realtors. Now, how do you just open that door? I would say start with that. Show that you've done a little bit of homework on me, and that is not just a mass message, number one.
Right.
Number two, it goes to the systems, right? You may not sell me on the very first time, right? Because I may have a relationship, or I may simply be too busy, whatever it is, right? You may not just, I'm not going to flip and throw a ton of business your way based off of one communication. So then it goes to the follow-up, right? Stay in front and approach it from let's build a relationship. What business do you have for me, right? What's in it for me? But how can I help you? How can we both help each other? And really have an answer for that. Don't just superficially, say that, right? But have an answer for it. And then again, it's like anything, it's when I go out and I try to grow our teams and recruit people. It's like our loan officers when they go out and try to generate business with real estate agents. You guys trying to generate business from mortgage folks. It's about building a relationship at the end of the day, in my opinion, because if you don't, then I'm not going to do business with you. I'm just going to do business with the lowest price person, right?
Right.
Guy that has the best product, right? I mean, in mortgage, there's so much similarities across the board, right? Myself, from the other 100 or 1,000 companies out there and mortgage people out there that have the same product, 30-year fixed mortgage at this rate or whatever. There's no differentiation, but what they don't have that we do is me, right? Mm-hmm. That personal relationship, because, and I know this is well said, but the one thing that this all circles around is people will do business with people they know, like, and trust.
All day.
Those three things. So how do I get to know you? How do I get to like you? And how do I ultimately get to trust you? You can earn, if you can answer those three things and get that from me, you're going to get my business too.
And those things those things are all demolished if you send out a massive text on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, you just won't get a response. Let me put it that way. I don't put that down in any way, right? I'm not going to cross it off a list or anything. There's nothing like that. But you probably won't get a response.
Right.
So I would suggest to be more personal, so this is all time consuming. Yes, it's hard to mass scale this, but the conversion will be significantly better. Be more personal, talk to me, not that I feel like you're talking to 1,000 other folks, right? And approach it from I want to get to know you, right? Know, like, and that's where then my business may shift over to you,
That's great. Great advice. And it's so fun. I mean, these are the same principles in sales and the same principles across the industries.
Universal.
It's like,
absolutely.
Totally. And I just met with my team this morning virtually. And I mean, like, we had a crazy great day yesterday, crazy great, like one of our best. And honestly, like, we went through with everybody, what was their wins? Like, how did they get their wins in this environment? We were more expensive than almost every single person that we were going against. But each one of them spent the time to build the connection, explain the coverages, really empathize with that person. I think in this landscape, like, that is the biggest benefit. Everybody needs someone to talk to right now and someone to, like, feel kind of where they're coming from. So I think that you're 100% on that. Like, it's crazy how much that connection matters.
It is. I mean, more so now than ever, right? I mean, everyone needs the human connection. I think, nowadays, right, we're forced to make connections that are naturally distant. Mm-hmm. But now more than ever. But I think in any season, in any market, it's that human connection that differentiates, right?
Yep.
I mean, you can, and there's many companies out there, right, that build a big, huge, massively successful business based off of rate and cost and everything else, right? And they're just looking for mass volume. And but if you're not in that, and I've never been in that environment, right? I've always been in the business building, relationship building kind of world, where I've never been the lowest cost. I've never been the I can do this significantly better than that person. I mean, we can, and of course you got to have competitive advantages. You got to do your business well. You got to, and you got to know it. You got to be that perceived expert there. But at the end of the day, that's just a relationship. And if you can build that, right, which most of the time will take time, right? It's not a one call sale, but if you can build it, that will also last, right? Because think about this, most people will not follow up. They will not spend the time to do that. So if you can do that with a referral partner, that referral partner, unless you screw it up, is going to stick, right? Because no one else is going to do that with that referral partner.
Right.
And properly and continue to do it. You've got a lifetime of referrals there. So
I'd love to get granular on that. How many the insurance agents or producers for insurance agents hit you on a daily or weekly basis to try to connect?
Sure. Daily, probably at least 2. That will ebb and flow. Obviously, you always know it, and I know it's in our industries this very same way, right? When we're in a refi market, the solicitations and messages out to real estate agents dramatically decrease because everyone's so swamped elsewhere. So I know you guys are the same, right? It ebbs and flows with business, I think, in a way, but I would say at least 2 a day. And for the most part, they're all very similar in the sense that they are just one very first connection. And usually it's on like social media, right? It's because it's so just easy to mass blast. But it'll be on social media and it will just be a message about, I can help clients. I can do this. You got any clients for me? Right. I mean, at the end of the day,
right. Ask it.
And the very first thing I do is delete. Really, because I mean, my time, like we were talking about scaling time, right, is my number one thing. And so I'm not even going to take the 5 minutes or 1 minute even to respond to it because you didn't take enough time, at least from my perception, to even make it personal to me, right? So if you can't do that, I'm not going to do it, certainly. But at least 2, so it is inundated. That's why it's important to stand out. The thing that will catch my attention is making comments that you've done your homework about me. That will slow me down. That will solicit a response. And again, it may not be, I'm going to send you all my business tomorrow, but you'll certainly begin a conversation. And that conversation is what slowly builds to a relationship. So I can't emphasize that enough. That's what will be the key to getting a response that's higher than, taking a message and blasting it out to 5,000 people.
Yep. Then like, let's break down some more numbers. So the 2 hit you or whatever, right? On a daily basis, a few or a handful a week. Then how many times do they follow up? Is it usually
that I can't even measure because it's, I would say almost none.
One time you hit delete, they're gone. That's it.
Yeah. There will probably be maybe 5% that would follow up, right? With just a second. No one will follow up with a third. I can't even recall a number on a third.
That's incredible.
And we all know the sales stats, right? That the conversions are 5 to 7, conversations down the road. So no one's getting there with me, number one. And even then, you're starting off on such a bad route, right? And you're not fixing. I'd like to emphasize that too. The second communication and the small chance you do a third, it's basically the same. Well, there's a reason I didn't communicate the first time, right? So that's really where, it's that upfront message that's going to catch me enough to at least respond. Then it's the follow-up. No matter what my response is, and I can guarantee more, I can almost all but guarantee you it's not going to be, let's set up a coffee off of one message. It won't be. but it will at least open me up to your follow-up responses, right? That's all you want to shoot for in that first one is just, hey, raise my hand. I'm so-and-so from so-and-so insurance, right? You know, I'm here. I'd love to get to know you. Here's how, you know, I see you're over here. Your, you know, your clients look like you're in the hills, maybe in some trouble, you know, difficult spots to insure. I don't know, whatever might help me, right? Throw that in there because I see that as you did your homework on me, right? And all that will do is now you got to put your follow-up in place. And when you can do that, now you hit the 5, 6, 7 numbers, right? Now I feel like I'm getting to know you a little bit. Now we're building this relationship and that's really where you're going to take it.
Consistency and perseverance.
Yep. Absolutely. That's what wins the game for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like in what we're doing, right? For a primary role.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yep. Well, I mean, you've been scaling for a long time now. What was the best piece of advice along your road that really helped take you to the next level?
That's a great question. I've received a lot of great advice over the years from a lot of great leaders. I've had that fortunate, you know, luck to be a part of and work with. You know, one of the biggest things I think nowadays, and I think is now more relevant than ever, is, and it goes basically to what we were just talking about, actually. Try to provide more value than you get. Give more value than you get. Because as a salesperson, as salespeople, our natural instinct, and I'm very much this way, I had to go through a lot of rewiring, right, to look at this differently. Our natural instinct is to push, close, right? And by doing that, naturally it's give me, right? And that's what you're asking for. So this rewiring I took place, you know, I went through was, how do I give, right? I'm going to give so much that you're going to feel almost obligated to give me, right? You know, you're going to feel so obligated that you're going to pick up the phone when I call you. You're going to feel so obligated that when I offer some advice about your insurance policy or your mortgage or whatever, you're going to definitely listen because you're going to almost feel obligated to listen because I've given you up until that point so much value, right? I've given you value to the point where you see me as that expert, hopefully at that point.
Yep.
So the best piece of advice that I received, and this was, you know, again, received so many, but this one that stands out as of recent, going back probably 4 years now, was to rewire and be very conscientious of how much you're asking for, as opposed to just giving without any strings attached. Just give, because it will come back.
And who was that person that hammered that in for you?
So it was a colleague I knew, who is now actually a coach. He's a recruiting and growth coach, called Richard Milligan. That's his name. And he's, I mean, that's just one way he grew his business. And I mean, he's super successful now. He's been able to be a model for me to scale, you know, going back to how we can scale ourselves, how we can scale our own businesses. But that was one thing that he started on that kind of changed his trajectory was shifting the focus to asking for things to how do I just give so much value with no strings attached that you're almost going to start to feel obligated because you're getting so much from me. You're going to feel obligated to me.
I love that. I love it. Ryan, dude, this is like awesome. I love, we talked about hiring. The awesome advice with systems. Fire yourself was incredible. I think every insurance agent needs to look at that. Yeah, is a must. And then I love the secrets to getting yourself a loan officer in your centers of influence.
Yeah.
And then you got to give. You got to give to get.
There could be no better time spent, or, you know, one of the no better times spent for an agent to carve out that time and just spend, a couple hours every week to do that, right? To generate that traction with agents. I bet you Jason's going to be following up with you. You're both in California. If anybody wants to find you, they're not allowed to bug you, but if anybody wants to find you to send a referral over or help you and your team out, what would be the best way to do that, Ryan?
Yeah, you can look me up on LinkedIn, Ryan Schafer. I'm at Axia Home Loans here in Los Angeles, California. You can look me up there. Obviously, Facebook, Twitter, the typical means there. Just started Instagram, so I'm a little bit slow of an adopter there. But hopefully you'll be seeing more of me there as well. But I would definitely say LinkedIn for these purposes. You want to reach on out, connect. Any questions on our industry? Any just like I said, in general, I'm a systems guy. I'm a scaling guy. So that's always been an interest. So just in general terms, got anything there? Feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn.
Those are some of the most important things that people have trouble with. So that's awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. We'll put a link in the show notes to the LinkedIn. So for those poor searchers out there, and man, it's been awesome having you on. Maybe we'll chat again down the road. But sure. Really appreciate your time.
Likewise, guys. It's been awesome. Fun. I appreciate it. And appreciate having me on.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
All right, guys.
Take care, man.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Hey, you've got to check out the Insurance Dudes Inner Circle coming soon, where you get extended interviews as well as live coffee talks in our private Facebook group. Join the mailing list today at theinsurancedudespodcast.com. Hey, thanks for checking out the Insurance Dudes. Hey, please subscribe. We got some really great stuff coming out.